When I was at around 14 or 15 years old, I was moved to a facility for juvenile delinquents. And I lived in this facility for 1 or 2 years. And during that time, I have learned so many valuable lessons about life. Every boy that entered this facility were given duties to perform at home. And much more than that, every boy who lived in this facility was given a portion of the land that we were surrounded by. This land had to be tilled, this land had to be watered, nurtured, and we had to plant any vegetable that we liked to plant. And after a while, we were responsible to nurture this vegetation, let them grow, and at the right time, we were allowed to dig them up and enjoy it at the same time. This was one of the programs that was introduced to us by a God-fearing woman. It was there that I learned when I planted, and given the nature of the boys who came into the facility, we were not so patient in life. And given our nature to see seeds planted and then have nothing to do with it for a little while really agitated us. But at this facility, at this youth center, I learned about seasons. That there is a time for planting and there is a time for reaping. That the time for planting may not necessarily be the same time for reaping. I've discovered, even at that age, I discovered that life is regulated by seasons in and out. Life is regulated by spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Of course, before I could go to this place, being brought up in a place like I grew up in, I had no idea what seasons were. Every night was cold, every morning was cold. But going to this facility really opened my eyes to the seasons that existed in the world. And at the place where I live right now, when it's springtime, you would see flowers blooming. When you drive on the streets, you will see the trees in full bloom. Beautiful colored flowers, yellow flowers, purple flowers, blue flowers. You would see a wide variety of flowers. In fact, it is a season where everything comes alive. As soon as we begin to see flowers grow, we know that spring has begun. As soon as we see the temperature lowers a little bit, we know that winter is setting in. And when the sun begins to rise up a little early, we know that summer, we are entering into it. Seasons have a way of regulating our lives. Seasons have a way of conditioning the way we think. We would put away our warm clothes in summer, get them out in winter. During summer, we would burn a fire, bring out the heaters. But in summer, we put everything away. Seasons have a way of conditioning and regulating our lives. Recently, I noticed my neighbor's garden flourishing so well. And I thought to myself, why is my garden so dead? Why is my grass so brown? Why is my soil so hard? And yet just across the road, my neighbor's garden is flourishing with beautiful flowers. And I went home and I told my wife, there is something this man is doing that we are not doing. Let's go and find out what it is. Upon discussing with this man the way he tends his garden, he told us that he began planting 3 or 4 weeks ago so that we can see what we see now. He planted while it was still winter, anticipating the new season to come that will give birth to these flowering plants. I discovered that in order to enjoy spring, you plant in the season before that to see the flowers growing when spring dawns upon us. This experience of mine with my neighbor made me realize again, and it became more entrenched in my mind, that indeed there is a different season to plant and a different season to reap. A man's life is like the seasons of the year. Each season of our lives have its own peculiar beauty. And seasons really is the consequences of time. It is said that change is the only constant in this world. As time passes and as the universe moves on and on, with every movement that takes place, change is inevitable. We are used to measuring time in stages. We have an infant, baby, toddler, adolescent, and adult. There are times when we are unaware of the growth and changes that takes place in our lives. I'm sure there are many who stood in front of the mirror one day and realized that suddenly their hair was changing color, and they noticed some gray strands in their hair. Suddenly they realized that the skin just below their eyes are beginning to sag. Suddenly they realize that they need a new facelift in order to keep up the image that they had before. They need to update their image, just as we would update our software that we have in our computers today. Seasons have a way of working itself on our lives. When we get back, we'll discover what God wants us to learn through seasons.